The average lifespan of a human being is 77.8 years. In that period of time, numerous bonds will be created, memories will be made, and interests obtained. Now, imagine having all these things ripped away from you by no fault of your own. This is the unfortunate reality that many dementia patients are forced to accept. And with no cure to this mental deterioration, the lack of research and effort to repel dementia is startling. In this excerpt, taken from the Alzheimer's Association Disease Facts and Figures found within the College Board Stimulus, they state that millions of Americans are living with Alzheimer's or other dementia. As the size of the U.S. population aged 65 and older continues to grow, so too will the number and proportion of Americans with Alzheimer's or other dementias. Depression within elderly individuals has also steadily been on the rise. As stated by the National Library of Medicine, around 1 in every 3 persons over the age of 60 has or is currently being affected by depression. Having taken these statistics into account, it should make us wonder, is there a correlation between these two pieces of information? And why isn't this threat to our elderly community discussed more often? Good morning. My name is Joshua Chapman. And today we will be unraveling the connection between dementia and depression. The research question for my presentation today is, how has the incidence and instances of depression within the elderly led to an increase in dementia cases within the United States in the 21st century? The conclusion that I've come to from gathering data is that the prevalence of depression within the elderly community has led to a significant increase in occurrences of dementia, and these numbers will only continue to grow as the population of elderly individuals increases. To begin with, we need to understand what dementia is. As stated by the University of California, San Francisco, dementia is an umbrella term for any disease that causes a change in memory or thinking skills that is severe enough to impair a person's daily functioning. Numerous different types of dementia exist. However, one of the most common and most dangerous forms found within the elderly community would be Alzheimer's dementia. Alzheimer's dementia typically affects the brain's frontal lobe first, which is why the earliest signs of the disease will typically be memory loss. It will then spread throughout the rest of the brain, eventually causing the patient to be unable to understand or remember anything around them. Because of this, these different types of dementia are classified as neurodegenerative diseases, as they cause progressive damage to brain cells that is irreversible. Other effects of dementia also include extensive damage to nerve cells in the brain, which will eventually lead to shrinkage of both hippocampus and cerebral cortex, as seen in the comparison of a healthy brain to a dementia-riddled one pictured to the right. This shrinking of the brain leads to numerous health complications, as the World Health Organization states that common symptoms of the brain shrinkage include struggling to maintain conversations, losing or forgetting about things, finding yourself confused within familiar spaces, and difficulty performing regular everyday tasks. In some cases, personality changes within an individual may occur. Returning to the research that the University of California, San Francisco did on the effects of dementia, they state that in dementia, personality changes are usually because the person is losing cells in different parts of the brain. The behavior changes you often see depend on which part of the brain is losing cells. Many of these personality changes are often based around anger, as patients finding themselves unable to express their emotions due to the spread of dementia will often lead to signs of irritability and impatience. Now, having understood the harm dementia can cause, we can begin to delve into the connection between depression and dementia. In an article published by Catherine Hesser, a student researching the connection, she claims that depression can be both a risk factor for and a predominant feature of dementia in different individuals and samples. Recent meta-analysis have found that, on average, late-life depression or clinically relevant depressive symptoms were associated with a 2-fold higher rate of incident dementia. Previous research has shown that depressive symptoms at both mid and late life were associated with a higher risk of dementia, whereas others found a higher risk of subsequent dementia, specifically for participants with late onset depression and elevated late life depressive symptoms. Having taken both these claims into account, it is safe to make the assumption that regardless of when the depression took place, it being present within a patient greatly increases their chances of finding themselves with dementia later on in life. The connection between dementia and depression is further proven in a study created by Cedric Teaser, another student studying dementia. As seen in the graph in the upper right, a total of 298 individuals with a mean age of 72.1 years were subjected to the standardized mini-mental test, which provides an accurate assessment of cognitive status within its participants. These individuals were also treated based on the geriatric depression scale, which is formed around 30 simple yes or no questions that determined whether or not someone can show signs of depression. Within the study, it was found that 17 of these individuals were depressed, whereas the remaining 281 were not. Of these 281 individuals, it was found that only 9.3% of them showed signs of dementia. In contrast, out of the 17 depressed individuals, it was found that 47.1% of them showed signs of dementia. This conclusion is very alarming, as it shows a 37.8% increase in dementia-affected individuals, based purely around the participants' mental health. This correlation between depression and dementia is further proven by a graph provided by Hong Zhu, an associate professor, as he studied a few nursing homes and how the quality of care affected the instances of dementia and depression. In the graph shown on the bottom left, we can see as the percentage of depressed individuals declines, so too does the percentage of those affected by dementia. All three of these articles paint the same conclusion, or all three of these articles come to the same conclusion. Depression within the elderly does indeed directly correspond to dementia within the elderly. Now, having identified and strengthened the connection, what steps can be taken to prevent this sequence of depression, or dementia followed by depression? One of the easiest ways to solve this crisis is by having medical personnel be better prepared to diagnose depression within individuals. In a document from the Health Research Institute, Lafayette, they say professionals should include more extended protocols for the evaluation of factors associated with depression and suicide risk, such as hopelessness and psychological pain in MCI patients, in order to achieve the early detection level and the management of symptomatology in the vulnerable population. Identifying these early stages of depression within an individual would allow for treatment and in turn provide numerous long-term health-related benefits. Another possible solution to this issue would be increasing both the number of staff and quality of care within nursing homes. As seen in this graph, taken from the aforementioned study done by Hong Zhu, an increase in the quality of staffing and the amount of staff available within nursing home leads to an increase of instances of low depression and low dementia rates, as well as a decrease in instances of high depression and high dementia rates. However, having found these solutions, there are still some limitations that remain present. The largest roadblock to the solutions that were previously stated would be the lack of federal funds. As we can see from the graph on the left, taken from the United States Government Accountability Office, only around 5.6% of government spending is put towards healthcare. This percentage is projected to grow by around 2.6% over the next 30 years. But even then, it will still not be enough to properly fund the actions that need to be taken in order to solve this issue, while still maintaining enough funds for other medical fields. Another major issue would be the lack of medical personnel readily available. The United States Department of Health and Human Services states that a shortage of between 54,000 and 139,000 physicians is to be expected by 2033, the majority of which are expected to be missing from primary care. Having said this, it is not entirely unreasonable that we expect little to no amount of change in staffing until we are eventually able to alleviate this worker shortage. In summary, depression and dementia within the elderly is not something that should be taken lightly. Our population is rapidly reaching the point where a large number of people find themselves falling within the age range where dementia is most common. And with percentages of individuals affected by depression constantly rising, it is crucial that steps be taken to halt this possible crisis. Thank you.
All right, 2 questions for you, Josh. What information did you need to find, but you never were able to find it, and how did you deal with that?
So I wanted to find information on how dementia might actually lead to depression, but there wasn't really a lot of it done, as research on dementia in general is still lacking quite a bit.
And what advice would you have for other researchers that take on this topic in the future?
I would probably say do more research into different sample studies. I only did 2 different case studies, but if we were to compare it to a larger group of people, then you would be able to find more information connecting this topic.